Well, great Tuesday morning, everyone. Cesar Mascoro Jr. with Manufactured Home Sales Mastery in with our 15 minutes to mastery. Hope you're doing well. Hope your Tuesday has started off on the right foot. If it hasn't, well, that's why we're here with the 15 minutes to mastery, because we do this each and every day to make sure that your day gets started off on the right foot by providing you some information, inspiration, and motivation to get the day started off. And today we're talking about nonverbal communication, because in sales, we not only speak about things, we actually have to be observing what's going on. And so Peter Drucker said it best. We start this off like we always do with a quote to apply to what we're talking about. And Peter Drucker wrote in his quote here, the most important thing about communication is hearing what isn't said. Now, believe me, guys, I am not getting into this to get any guy into trouble with their spouse, okay? Because if anyone has an issue with communication throughout the years in the marriage, it's been me, all right? So I get it. But we're talking about how this applies, and we always talk about how we can apply these things in business and in life, right? So we need to apply them in our life, and this is also going to help me with at home. But we're talking about nonverbal communication. We're talking about what is not said and just how important that is. And there's so many reports, so many things that are researched and spoken about with regards to all kinds of different topics, but especially when it comes down to communication and sales. Now, we all understand the verbal communication, right? When customers are talking to you and telling you what they're needing, what they're feeling, what's going on in their situation that they need help with. But it's the nonverbal that makes up, if you would believe it, nonverbal communication actually makes up 70% of all communication. Think about it. How many times have you gotten the cold shoulder, the stare, or just being misunderstood, or people just trying to get their point across through their mode of or their physical being? Okay. So we're going to touch on that just a little bit. We want to talk about, first of all, what is nonverbal communication? So nonverbal communication is everything that we just talked about, right? And it has to do with how people are looking at you. Obviously their body language, their posture, right? Even things like the way that they verbalize with their hands. I'm very, I use my hands a lot when I speak. Okay. And that's nonverbal communication as well, right? Depending on the movement, you're emphasizing things, you're trying to implore somebody to give you more information, right? So you've got things like facial expressions as well. How many times have you gotten that, like I mentioned, that ugly stare, right? Like that you just got yourself into some problems, okay? Or customers looking at you and they're just not understanding, or you can tell in that look that they have in their face that, one, they're either not understanding what you're saying, or two, they aren't completely bought in. And it's being able to pick up on these things, the nuances of nonverbal communication, that really, really make it important, will separate you and take you to a whole new level in your effectiveness as a housing consultant, when you're able to pick up on these things, the tone in someone's voice, the loudness, the pitch in their voice, right? Things of that nature. When you're enunciating things, when you're being emphatic about certain words, all of those things matter when it comes to, right, the distance between you and that other person. If you're in an area where you're not comfortable, well, you're typically not getting close to someone. You're keeping your distance. But if you're comfortable with somebody, well, then of course you're a little closer, right? If it's somebody you love, whether it's your spouse, your boyfriend, girlfriend, your children, you tend to be closer. you're comfortable being closer. Those things are nonverbal communication. By the same token, if it's somebody you love and you tick them off, what happens? They stay away. They keep their distance, right? Those are all nonverbal communications as well. So we've got to be in tune with those things, even when it comes down to sales, especially when it comes down to sales, because you only get a certain amount of time with these folks, right? And hey, I don't want to pass up another one that's also very important, and that's a nonverbal communication, which is our physiological reaction or response when we're speaking. If you're nervous, do you get sweaty? Do your pits get sweaty? Are the customer's hands, nervous, where you can tell they're nervous? They're fidgety. Think about it. When you get sick and you just have that look and you're heaving, dry heaving, things of that nature, all of those are nonverbal communications. Now, not to say that your customers go through all of those things, but they can go through several of them when you're dealing with them. And we want to make sure that we're able to pick up on those things, because that is what's going to help put this thing together for us. Because think about this, okay? If you're having that conversation with someone and you're thinking that everything is going well, or at least you're giving all the information, okay, and you start asking questions about their situation, their life, their family, and you're not getting everything in detail as you think you should. Do you just keep going on? Do you bypass that? Do you overlook that and just keep going on? Or are you parking it right there and are you digging into it? Okay. Why the hesitation? Why won't you give the full information when it comes to this? What are we withholding? What are you withholding that can possibly be a problem in the transaction? That can be a problem with the financing. That can be a problem with the property, things of that nature. Those are all things that typically a customer will give you some nonverbal communication on. When you're asking about down payment, big one, right? When you're asking about down payment and they tell you that they've got about $5,000. Well, is it $5,000? What does about mean? How much is about? Well, about five. We've got about 4,000. Okay, does that mean that you have 4,000 already saved, or is it that you only have a certain part of it and you're thinking you're going to get the other? If you got 1,000, but you think you get the other 3,000 from your income over the next few weeks, the next few months. What is the situation? But when you just let that go, as simple as about $5,000, you are causing yourself more harm than being able to help them completely, because you don't truly know what's going on. So you've got to make sure that you are able to break through, stop, and address that. Okay. You need to be able to address that right then and there, so that you make sure that you are not leaving anything unsaid. Like Peter Drucker said, the most important part of communication is being able to hear what isn't said. I've spoken about that in the past. I've given other examples, when customers are talking about what they're looking for in a home. Okay. And let's say they're contacting you on a 4-bedroom home that maybe they saw an ad on, but it's only 2 people in the house. They got 1 dog and they're trying to cut back on expenses. Then why would they want to be going to a 4-bedroom? They're simply contacting you on that 4-bedroom because they like the way it looks, but they're not telling you that they really need to be in something smaller. And that is our responsibility as the consultant, your responsibility as a consultant, as the sales and leasing agent, whomever it is that you are dealing with that potential client, to help them understand or help them bring out that which they are not saying, right? Hey, Mr. Customer, I understand that you love this home. However, all the other things that you're telling me that you want to cut back in size, you want to cut back in expenses and whatnot. I think what we haven't addressed yet is the fact that maybe you need to go with something smaller than a 4-bedroom. And so it's not that they came out and said it, but with everything they did say and with their whole reaction, maybe when you got into the finance part of your interview and things of that nature, maybe you picked up on the fact that they're really hesitant about going with something that large. So you've got to be able to discern that through the nonverbal communication. And that's why it's so important. Okay. So, what are some of the ways that we can better understand nonverbal communication? Now that we've talked about it, right? What are nonverbal communications? Well, it's going to be the eye contact. It's going to be their physical postures, right? The tone of their voice, the pitch of their voice, physiological reactions, maybe the distance that they have between you and where they are, things of that nature, right? Are going to be the nonverbal communications, eye contact, things of that nature. And now we understand how we've got to make sure that we're paying attention throughout the whole process, not just to what we're saying. Sometimes we get so caught up in just making sure we're speaking, we're saying the right things, we're asking the right questions, but we're not truly paying attention to who they are, how they're being, their reaction to things that they aren't saying. So now you know what to look out for, right? How can you better understand then what nonverbal communication is? And we're going to go through the top 5 ways to get that done. First and foremost, pay attention to the inconsistencies, right? Like I mentioned, inconsistencies such as what I just described, right? They're calling you about a 4-bedroom, but they're telling you that they want to downsize. They're telling you that they want to save money. They want to cut back on expenses. Well, there's an inconsistency right there without them coming out and saying, I want a 2-bedroom. I want a single wide. I want a 3-bedroom, not a 4-bedroom. So inconsistencies. They're telling you one thing, but their physical nature, okay, the look on their face says something different. Pay attention to that, right? You've got to look at nonverbal communication as a whole. It's not just what you see in their face. It's everything from their mannerisms to the tone of their voice to the eye contact. Are they avoiding eye contact? Things of that nature. You've got to look and pay attention at everything. Are they fidgeting the whole time? Is their knee bouncing up and down because they're nervous? Things of that nature. You've got to look at everything and pay attention to it all. You've got to trust your instincts, right? Use your gut intuition. However, as we've learned before, if you've paid attention to any of our training and or maybe you've watched the Start With Why from Simon Sinek, he goes deep into explaining how our gut feeling is not really a gut feeling. It's actually coming from our brain, okay, from our limbic brain, and the part that controls emotion, okay, that comes from that area. And so you've got to trust your limbic system, trust your gut, trust your instincts, what you think and feel, but don't just I got this bad feeling. And then you're going to go talk to your GM. You know, we got everything, but they told me this, and I'm not too sure. Well, did you ask them? Well, no. Ask them. I'm telling you right now, ask them, bring it up, address the elephant in the room, make sure that everything is out in the open. And because of that, that means that you're practicing emotional awareness. Understand the fact that they are nervous. They're concerned. Most of them are first-time home buyers. You've got to be emotionally aware of the situation, right? And that comes from you putting yourself in their shoes, understanding. Think about if you've purchased a home before, when you purchased your first home, how nervous were you? How did you feel? How was that experience? What did you think? What did you like? Okay, what did you accomplish by purchasing that home? Emotionally, what did it fulfill for you? Because those are probably the things that they're going to go through. So using that emotional awareness will help you to better understand the nonverbal communication, because you will be in tune, understanding what can possibly be going on. All right. And lastly, don't make assumptions. You already know about that, right? You know what you do when you assume. Don't do it. And that's why I said earlier, ask the question. If you're feeling something, you think something's not right, if you're thinking that something's not jiving, ask it. There's no better way to get through and make sure you've got the right information than asking, hey, what is going on here? What is this? What does that mean? Do you have $5,000 or do you have less and you're going to save the rest, or somebody else going to give it to you? Well, my mom's going to give it to you. Okay, great. Does mom know that she's going to do this? Let's call mom on the phone right now and let's make sure. Let's get all of those things out of the way so that you can have a better and more effective sales presentation, sales process, and be able to help your customer, empower them to make a decision. By us paying attention to these nonverbal communication strategies, by us paying attention to their nonverbal communication forms, we're going to be able to empower our clients to make a decision on day one, because all of that nonverbal stuff, especially the negative side of it, will keep them from making a decision. So address it, find out what's not being said so that you can be more effective. I hope this helps you guys to be able to operate a little smoother, a little bit more efficiently. If there's anything that we can do to help, please reach out to us here at Manufactured Home Sales Mastery. And as always, we are always here to help you take your life, your business, your career to a whole new level. Have a great Tuesday. I got to get into a sales meeting out here. You guys take care. And as always, I can't wait to meet you.